Good morning.
Man.
Boy, I about broke that thing. Good morning. I call this meeting of the Cartersville City Council to order. If you will please stand for our invocation and pledge.
Let us pray. Loving God, we give you thanks for all your gifts, but particularly those gifts that make this a good place to live, learn, and play, and to work. Give you thanks for the chance that all of us share in elected representative government, that all may see what a wonderful gift that is and give guidance to those who now make those decisions. And this we pray in your holy name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May the roll, please.
Carrie Hodge, Councilmember Ward 1.
Here.
Jay Stepp, Councilmember Ward 2.
Here.
Louis Tonsmeyer, Councilmember Ward 3.
Here.
Lindsay McDaniel, Councilmember Ward 4.
Here.
Diane Tate, Councilmember Ward 5.
Here.
Lori Pruitt, Councilmember Ward 6.
Here.
Thank you, Renee. First order of business is the swearing in of our Civic Youth Day officials. Welcome to all of you. We'll be swearing in the city council, the school board, the mayors, and the city attorney, the city clerk, and the city manager. When I call your name, if you'll please come up and line up around here, and then Renee will come down and swear you all in at one time. Incidentally, I have asked Chief Culpepper that if any cell phones go off during this meeting today, that he will take you down. No, and I checked to make sure that mine was on vibrate before I said that. So, all right. So if you'll please step forward. The mayor from Cartersville High School is Aaron Moore. From Excel, it's Peyton Stone. City council members are Denver Harris, Justin Ballou, Ashley Harris, Victoria Jones, Adam Harper, Maddie McGinnis. Our school board members are Meredith Graves, Mallory Jones, Lauren Matthews, Maddie Lovett, Hannah Surratt, Taylor Vaughn, and Katie Metcalf. City Attorney Hannah Crocker, City Clerk Catherine Farmer, and City Manager Giovanni Martino. And Renee will now do the swearing in.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and of the state of Georgia, that I will in all respects observe the provisions of the Charter and ordinances of the city of Cartersville, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of my office. So help me God.
I thought Max, I had been like that all.
Thank you. And I guess just as a point of order, since we only do this once a year, I'm a little bit hazy on this. Do all of the students here, do you know who you're matched up with by name? Very quickly, just you can see if you're one of the council members, we've got name tags up, we've got these name placards, but for the city attorney, that'd be Hannah Crocker. You're going to be with Keith, who has pushed that off to Tom Quist. Is that what you've done? Tom Quist is right there in the back of the room. Giovanni, you're also with Tom Quist.
We may just stay in here.
And we'll probably stay in here. City clerk will be with Renee, unless there's Renee right there. Electric department, Don, are you handling that? Yes, so Jacqueline Sellers, you're with Don. Chief Carter is not here. Oh, here he is. He was on the radio. He's with Bria Jackson. Gas Superintendent Gary Riggs is with Marquez Walker. Police Chief Tommy Culpepper is with Christian Crocker. Public Works Director Who's here from Public Works?
Tommy.
Sanders is in the back of the room, and Mariah Hibbard. Parks and Rec is Gordy's back there, and Philip Looney's with him. Water and Sewer is Jim Stafford, and that's Alexis Chester. Planning and Development, Randy Menino, and I'll be with Richard, and that's Hayes Vaughn. Finance Director, Tom Reinhardt, is right there in the back in the middle. Is it Delicia Diamond? Did I do that pretty well? And Dan Porta is Assistant City Manager. He's right there, and Becca Bell, okay? So do we usually match them up now? We're going to stay right where we are. We're not going to play musical chairs.
No.
We'll just go on and make sure you meet up with them afterwards. So again, thank you for y'all for participating. I do think we're the only city and county in the state that is still doing this. We're getting nods from the back of the room, so we're kind of special. That makes you guys special. All right, let's get to the city's business. We've got the council meeting minutes from our March 7th meeting. And council, you've had these well in advance of today. And so Chair will entertain any edits, corrections, or motions.
Didn't see any edits or corrections. Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. And minutes are approved. We do have a proclamation. Mr. Menino, if you'll start us off with that.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. As you noted, we have a proclamation for Mr. Reeves. He has served on the Alcohol Control Board for
I've done a great disservice. Thank you, Linda Benton. Those people who are members of the school board, if you're job shadowing school board or anything to do with the school system, leave now. Follow Linda. Thank you, Linda. You're welcome to school. Get out.
You get more ideas about stuff they can ask me. Wow, everybody's gone. They stay in there and
I think so, yeah.
getting.
Mr. Menino, if you'll please continue, and my apologies.
Thank you again, Mayor. As I noted before, we're here to recognize Mr. Reeves this morning as one of the original members of the Alcohol Control Board. He served for 8 years, 2004 through 2012. Great leadership for that particular board. He ended, when he retired, he was the acting chairman. One quick note about Mr. Reeves. At one point, we were going through trying to put a bunch of data together to see if we can find consistency in actions of the board for probations and fines, so we could put together a structure for fines. And Jack turns around, tells Mr. Allday, who was working with the board at the time, oh yeah, I've got that database. He kept his own database of all the actions of the board. So all his data from that time is the basis for our current database that we keep. We just took the data he turned over to us, went through our records and double checked and filled in some places where a couple of meetings he wasn't able to be there. And from that day on, that database is something that he started and created, and we certainly appreciate that. It was our pleasure and honor to work with Mr. Reeves, and with that, I'll point out, I believe the current chairman, Mr. Knapp, is also here. I don't know if he'd like to get up and say a word or so about Mr. Reeves. We'd certainly appreciate that.
Step forward if you'd like to say something, Rick.
And I believe Rick is also served as one of the original members of the Alcohol Control Board since its inception in 2004.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, I have found that there are many benefits serving on a board here in the city of Cartersville. The obvious benefit of the satisfaction of serving your community, the benefit of meeting knowledgeable and hardworking city employees and working with them in a way you wouldn't normally get to work with them, and then meeting some of the city's finest citizens by meeting your fellow board members and working with them. And Jack Reeves certainly is one of our finest citizens. From the first day, he was a leader. He understood what we needed to do. I think his best attribute that I can identify was he knew what questions to ask. And I've tried to emulate him in that. And certainly, as I am the chairman of the board now, when I conduct business, I try to emulate Jack, and he did a very good job. And he's a good citizen and a good friend. Thank you.
Thanks, Rick, and thank you for your service as well. I do have a proclamation here that I'd like to read, and then we'll start presenting. It says that whereas at a regular scheduled City Council of Cartersville, Georgia, a motion was made and duly seconded that the City of Cartersville recognize the loyal service and dedication to the community by Jack Reeves. And whereas Mr. Reeves' tenure as a member of the Cartersville Alcohol Control Board spanned 8 years from June 2004 to May 2012, and whereas as an ambassador for our great city, he dedicated his time to improve the quality of life for all citizens of Cartersville. Therefore, by means of this proclamation, we are expressing appreciation to Jack Reeves for the great and positive impact on our community and what we've received through his leadership. And so, Jack, congratulations. I also have a plaque here that reads very simply with the Cartersville City logo. It says, "Presented to Jack Reeves for 8 years of extraordinary and dedicated service to the City of Cartersville, Alcohol Control Board, June 2004 to May 2012. And I'll ask you to come forward now along with Randy and Rick, if you'll make your way back up so that we can get a picture.
I would just like to thank every one of you for the support that I had while I was on the board. It was an inspiration to me, and I appreciate it. And the board that I had to work with, exceptional. So thank all of you. And I enjoyed every minute of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Mr. Menino, you have the next item, which is a first reading of an ordinance.
Thank you again, Mayor, Council. As you know, this is a reading of the ordinance. This is a proposed text amendment to our zoning ordinance. I'm going to give you a little history on this particular application. The Willow Day Spa underneath the bridge offers some services, spa salon type services. With that, they were looking to add permanent makeup as part of their services that they offer. In looking through our ordinance, permanent makeup is actually cosmetic tattooing, and tattooing in our ordinance is only allowed in one zoning district. With that, in talking with the city attorney, he felt it pretty necessary that we distinguish between a tattoo parlor and the permanent makeup that their service was going to offer. With that, the city planner did some research and came up with some definitions, and it looked into how other states have defined these types of services. And additionally, in looking at what the state requirements are, the state of Georgia does not distinguish between the permanent makeup and a tattoo parlor. It's all tattooing in their eyes. And additionally, there are other states that do separate it and have different requirements for both. The state of Georgia has one set of requirements for that. With that, staff agree with the city attorney's office that we very much needed to distinguish between a tattoo parlor and with the spa service they were trying to offer. And in working with the city planner, came up with the definitions to distinguish this. With that, it went to the Planning Commission. Planning Commission did review the data, did speak with the applicant, and did recommend approval of the proposed changes to the zoning ordinance. With that, the applicant is here represented with this. And if you have any specific questions on the procedure and so forth, you'll have to ask them, because I'm not real knowledgeable on makeup. But with that, Planning Commission does recommend approval of this application.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Menino at this point? And is there any discussion, or would anybody like to hear from the applicant?
I guess I do have a question for Mr. Menino. Do you know if there's any training involved in doing permanent cosmetic makeup?
From my understanding in speaking with the applicant and the person that she has trained to do this type of work, yes, there are specific training requirements and licensing requirements.
And the licensing is overseen by Secretary of State's office?
You actually
and-
have to get a license through the state, I believe it's the health department.
The health
And in Bartow County, it would be I say local health department, but it is a state-regulated agency.
I guess my concern would be tattooing is so different from what I understand. I've only seen one, but cosmetic permanent, and that is it's around the eyes and around the mouth. I mean, it's in some areas. that
You would
is-
have to ask the applicant that. I've never worn makeup, so I don't know.
I've got a picture on my phone.
That was Halloween.
Would you like to ask the applicant that? Yeah, well, if the applicant will please step forward. And if you would, for our clerk, your name and address, please.
My name is Brooke Hodge. I am the owner of Willow Day Spa under the bridge. And then this is Melissa. She is the one that received the training. I will hold the salon permit for it, and then she is individually licensed.
Hi, I'm Melissa Beige.
How are you? The question is about training in areas that I would consider very sensitive. And then I think there's maybe another question about the camouflage tattooing that may be a part of this. What kind of training is involved?
I am certified in cosmetic tattooing. I went to Orlando, Florida for my certification. So I am certified. I did have training.
Thank you. It's just something we don't know much
Oh, no,
about,
I
you know,
understand.
and this ordinance would cover not just the one applicant, but now this ordinance would be a change for everyone.
Right.
Can you talk to me a little bit about camouflage tattooing as a part of this ordinance?
You mean what is camouflage
Yes, ma'am.
tattooing? Like for scars, people that have been scarred or burned, that's what it's for.
Any parts of the body, all parts of the body?
All parts of the body,
Oh.
yes.
So this is not just, you're not just requesting something for face, cosmetic.
Right, it would
This-
also be for camouflage and for aerial tattooing for breast cancer survivors who have had mastectomies.
Okay.
And
Okay.
what do you do when you camouflage? What is it, are you just adding skin tone?
Yes, skin tone color.
So there would be no designs, letters, scrolls, figures?
No.
Just skin tone to
Yes.
other parts of the
Flesh
body?
color,
Okay.
yes.
Where there are concerns, Brooke, is the fact that, you know, there's a stigma around tattooing. And because the state of Georgia doesn't differentiate between permanent makeup and tattooing, the conversation has kind of gotten a little bit off as far as what your intentions are. But
I completely understand
I don't
that.
think, not to speak out of turn, but I don't think there's concerns about you. I think there's concerns in general that when you're putting something in line that applies to the entire city, that we have to make sure that that there's not a way to circumvent what we currently have in place, so.
We're just making sure when we write the definition, we write it correctly, so we don't have to go back in 6 months and try to change it, and then we've got a lot of other people who may or may not be certified. We're just trying to make sure we cover everything. Since you're the first, we want to make sure we do it right, and we don't have a lot to go by in the state of Georgia, so we're trying to understand as much as we can.
And we don't know much about it. May I ask a question? This is not an ordinance question, but what happens if there is a slip of and there's a mistake? Well, no,
Get your money
really.
back.
No, I'm thinking about,
What would the consequences?
well,
Free iPad?
no, I'm just thinking about eyes and, you know, vision and, I mean, you just,
I have insurance, that's the only way I know to answer that question.
and again, it may be a very naive question. I mean, I
No,
just don't know.
Right, I'm not saying that there's zero possibility of that ever happening, but
But
I am
you
insured
carry
to cover
insurance.
that
Okay.
if that happens.
To my understanding, in the state of Georgia, she's not allowed to do any kind of eyeliner. You can't come within so many inches of the eye.
Unless we have a doctor's.
Correct.
Okay.
Which we don't, so
Okay.
she wouldn't be
See.
doing any
But I can
eyeliner.
do eyebrows and lips.
Gotcha. See, I didn't know how to ask that question. Thank you.
So explain that again. You can't do eyeliner unless you have a doctor on site?
Right.
Is that it?
If we had a doctor's license on board, like
Doctor's
same
license.
types of, if they have to do injections, things like that. If we had a doctor that worked there, then I could do eyeliner.
Okay. So you're trained to do it?
Yes.
But it's the state health
Right.
department rules?
Right,
that
it's
don't-
Georgia law,
Okay.
yes.
Any other questions?
Thank you. I didn't know that.
Thank you, ladies.
Thanks so much.
Randy, they've got another question for you. if you'll
Yeah,
step
I
forward,
wanted to
please.
ask, this restricts it to commercial areas?
Yes, it will be part of service establishment use, which is allowed in a few commercial areas of the.
And no, is there any reason we wouldn't allow it in heavier, like industrial and those kind? Was that discussed?
Well, the actual tattooing itself is allowed in the industrial, the light
Okay.
industrial, so.
Okay.
That's
So
where it
this
was-
changes the definition, it's allowed in there too?
Correct, and again,
Okay.
the main reason was to distinguish between tattoo parlors and the permanent makeup.
I'm just trying to think about the likelihood of this coming back at some other location, make sure they've got it all covered, so council doesn't need to hear it again. Thank you.
Okay, good, thank you.
I'm sorry, maybe I wasn't following. This definition will allow permanent makeup only in the downtown business district or
No, that is
everywhere?
not correct.
Okay.
As part of a service establishment.
Service
And again, typically that's going to be done as an accessory to salon, day spa type of use.
Okay, thanks.
Have we ever had an applicant request this before?
No,
Business owner?
this is the first.
Okay.
And again, we've heard of the procedure in the state of Georgia doesn't distinguish between the two. And I know of other places that do it. And like I said, Richard did a lot of research when it first came up and came up with a lot of material that we had to look at.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, any other discussion, questions? Wonderful. This is the first reading of an ordinance. And so there is no, well, actually, we're supposed to have technically we're supposed to have a public hearing, right? And we've kind of been having that, but I guess since we're still in a public hearing, anybody else wish to step forward and speak for or against? Wonderful, and seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. We don't vote on it this time. We'll take this up at our first meeting in April. Mr. Osborne.
Thank you, Mayor. The city encourages home ownership. One of the ways that we do this is through applying and receiving federal grant money, the Community Housing Improvement Program, in which first-time home buyers are able to receive a forgivable $10,000 loan. If they live in their house 5 years or longer, we release the lien. This is one of those instances at 18 Martin Luther King Jr. Drive.
Okay, any questions or comments? And if there are none, a motion would be in order.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. MOU for First Alpina.
Honorable Mayor and Council, you'll have to forgive me with my Georgia accent. I'll try to pronounce that correctly.
You just call them the company.
Okay. I am pleased to announce First Alpine as our newest customer choice for the city of Cartersville electric system. First Alpine Automotive, they make automotive body parts, and it's an Austrian company this is our first industrial customer to locate in the Highland 75 Industrial Park. A memorandum of understanding has been drafted indicating the service terms, and council approval and the mayor's signature is recommended.
Okay, questions for Don on this item?
Mayor, I'd just like to congratulate our electric department. I heard from the mayor, we all did, that it was an excellent presentation, and it is the first company in our industrial park, and congratulations.
We hope it's first of many, and we appreciate you know, there was a lot of effort beside our department went into this. All the just our reputation, I think, the cities in general helped a lot.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Don. And especially, I do want to say it in the meeting, is David Myers and Tamara Brock did an outstanding job with the presentation and selling our community, our department, and the services. And also want to thank Bartow County for allowing us to use some of their equipment. Matter of fact, a generator that's going to be used temporarily while we're getting service out to the park. So yet another example, we're partners with them with the industrial park, and we work together to bring quality jobs in companies like First Alpena, and we'll work together to get those services out there for us to benefit the entire community. So thank you, Don. Next item, date and time change for our July 4th meeting.
Right. The this first meeting in July falls on July 4th. That is a holiday. We polled council and have decided to back that up to July the 1st, which would allow anybody with plans for the holiday, getting out of town, et cetera, to do so. 7 p.m. on July 1st is recommended for your approval on the change of that date and time.
And while we work together as a team up here, Lori's role is usually to keep me on track and in order, and so I'm out of order because I never took a motion, second, or vote on that memorandum of understanding. So thank you, Councilwoman Pruitt. Thank you. I will assume, why don't I give you the first crack to make a potential motion?
A motion to approve.
Second. And can you be specific since we got out of order?
On the contract for electric service for First Alpena.
There you go.
Outstanding. All right, so I've got a motion and I've got a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you once again. And now we'll take up the issue of the date and time change from July 4th to July 1st.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And motion carries unanimously. Now, making that motion, you're committed to being here that day, right?
Yes.
Outstanding.
Thanks, sir.
We have a number of bid awards and purchases. Mr. Sanders, you're first up. You're delegating, okay. And just because you're up here, if you'll give your name to the clerk, please.
Okay. My name is Mariah Hibbard. I'm representing Excel. I am also representing the Public Works Department. There's a section of storm draining piping that has failed that travels through the Irwin Chase apartment complex. This section of the piping helps convey water from Irwin Downs subdivision to the railroad ditch. The pipe invert has rusted, rotted out, and is subject to collapsing at any time. We have obtained 2 price quotations on 630 linear feet of aluminized pipe to replace the failing section. The prices are followed. Southeast culvert bid, $35,910. Contact Engineered Solutions bid, $41,145.30. We would like to recommend the low bid from Southeast Culvert in the amount of $35,910.
Are the E-Save and Air verified documents in order? It's not on your sheet.
Yes. Yes.
Any questions for Ms. Hibbard on this item?
Mayor, I have a question. Do you know how old this storm drain pipe is?
No, ma'am.
It's corrugated metal pipe, and the lifespan of corrugated metal pipe is pretty low. It's probably 20 or 25 years, the bottom rust out, and that's why we're replacing it with an aluminized metal. It has a lifespan of about 50 years, and it's a 54-inch diameter pipe, so it's a pretty big pipe, and 630 some odd feet, so it's a pretty large diameter and pretty long stretch of pipe that we'll be replacing.
Any other questions? Any other questions? And if not, a motion will be in order.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thanks for playing along. Lamar, next item, please.
Mayor, our ever-increasing need for internet bandwidth, our present core equipment has reached its maximum capacity, and we're requesting the permission to purchase a new firewall, bandwidth shaper, and gig distribution equipment for the total sum of $58,626.91.
And I'll ask the question even though I know the answer. Is this a budgeted item?
No, sir, it's not, but there are funds available.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Greason on this item? And if there are none, a motion would be in order.
I'm sorry, I've got a question. I was reading here. The first sentence talks about resale, Lamar, but that's not what we're talking about with this bid.
All our internet is for internal use and commercial use, so that is the resale of internet, which the bandwidth shaper is used for both things, and our firewall is protect the commercial side from the public from the commercial side.
But it's not like some of the bids we do where there's a multiple year payback or any. I mean, you can't do that. You can't equate that to fiber, can you necessarily?
No.
Okay, any other questions or discussion? And if not, a motion would be in order.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Lamar. Mr. Reinhardt, you got the next two, and just so you know, we're going to add those items before we do the financial report. So.
Okay. Honorable Mayor and Council, the municipal court will be upgrading the current software at no cost and will be required to update the computer hardware that it uses in the day-to-day operations. The hardware will include desktop computers, a receipt printer, signature pads, and laptop computers. I've talked with the city's IT department and have estimates totaling $14,375 for these purchases. This is an unbudgeted item and will be paid for by using the funds collected from the technology fee that was imposed in August of last year. I do have the E-Verify forms from one vendor. This will be a multi-vendor purchase. Before making the other purchases, the intention is to get the E-Verify forms from the other vendors.
And those will come to us for approval once you get that in order?
Yes.
So bottom line, we're not approving anything without the
Correct.
E-Verify, okay.
Correct. I recommend approval for the purchase of the courtroom equipment in the amount of $14,375.
Okay, any questions for Tom on this item?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, Tom. Next item.
Yes, sir. Several months ago, I came.
Hey, Tom, I'm sorry, one
yes.
thing. Your bid quote says $14,735, but in your report to council, it says $14,375.
Should be a typo on my behalf. I'm sorry.
Just
It
to
should
make
be
you aware.
$14,735.
All right, and was that motion good for the 14,700?
14,735.
Okay.
Second is good too.
So, I don't know, do we need to revote that?
Yes.
All right, so we've motioned, reseconded. We do have anybody all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
I apologize for that. Thank
Yeah,
you.
that's fine.
I thought y'all just were telling them they were
Yeah, I
going to
thought
charge
we just cost us
$400
$400
less.
You can negotiate.
Several months ago, the DDA budget was brought before the council, and at that time, it was mentioned that a motion would be needed to basically update and amend the current general fund budget. With that being done, I have two items in the same, well, two things in the same item. First one is the DDA budget. Their total budget is $155,500. The total impact to the general fund is $51,500 to the expenses and the revenues. The overall revenues are increased by adding $44,000 to the municipal courts and fines, and $7,500 to the lease pool in reimbursements. And the second item is the impact fee fund. This needs to be amended. If you remember, several meetings ago when I brought this forward to you, $153,668.73 needs to be amended. We're trying to expend all these funds in this current fiscal year. The amendment to this will be as follows. The general fund is amended by $36,935.21. $20,025.88 of this is for administration expenses. $74,75.74 for the additional cost of the purchase of the fire trucks that took place in fiscal year 2011. And the remaining 94,3359 is for recreational trails completed in fiscal year 2011 also. Furthering this, the SPOS 2003 will be amended by $31,039.18. This is for the cost of the ongoing Dothert Ferry Road widening. The SPOS 2007 is amended by $85,694.34, and this is for the cost of the new police headquarters completed this year, actually. The impact fee ordinance will be left intact, so that in the future, if the council so chooses to start charging, we can charge without having to do all this all over again.
Any questions for Mr. Reinhardt on this?
Not a question, just a comment. I believe we need to do an amendment to the intergovernmental agreement with the DDA to reflect all these budget amendments that we've done, to update it to show the current relationship between the city and the DDA, whereby we are actually providing them their director.
Okay.
Question I had was a mathematical one on your sheet on page 40. Well, I guess it's part of the ordinance, 42. We are allowed to charge an administrative fee, the $20,000?
Correct.
Does that just roll into the general fund then?
Yes.
Was there another one, Lori, that you had a question about?
The general fund is being amended by almost 37,000, so 20,000 goes for administration, and the other 16, 17 is gonna go where?
For the $7,400 of that will be used for the purchase of the fire trucks that were done in 2011, and they were outfitted with equipment in 2012. And the remaining $9,400 will be used for the recreational trails that were completed in fiscal year 2011.
Got it, all right, great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tom and Sam, I'm still trying to understand. Impact fee fund will be shown as zero.
Correct.
But we still have to have that administrative cost, and it will go somewhere else, Sam, to keep that
Don't have to
going?
have it as something that you can do, and it makes sense to pull money out of here. And I mean, in as much as
Those
Randy.
funds already came in, and
Yeah.
now they're being expanded. They'd already been collected, and that portion's being divvied up to the administration.
As much as they're doing work on it, it is something that we can do. It's largely a capital thing, but I think, what does it allow, 3%?
I believe so.
Something like that. So, yeah, we need to go ahead and do
I guess
that.
I'm thinking about future years. I mean, if we're zero on impact fees, then where does the
Yeah, there wouldn't if there's zero.
Be
obviously.
3% of the zero?
Yeah, there's obviously no money.
Yeah.
for that.
Once it's zeroed out, there'd be nothing.
Yeah, the city will have to pay that themselves.
Okay.
Unfortunately, the way the impact fee
Which we do
law.
now.
Yeah, the impact fee law works for the, with the state is, we have to go ahead and make all these disbursements at this time, and use the funds up, otherwise they're no longer available
For
to the city.
future
Oh, I
years,
didn't realize that.
Yeah.
the only thing that you would probably be out is whatever he needs to do to prepare the reports to keep it viable for council and for the state.
and that'll just be a
What it-
decision, an internal decision?
That is whatever it is. It would be whatever payroll is, and really a question of the time that they put into it.
I understand.
And there is a 6-year time limit on this. We started collecting these in January of 2007. So,
Thank you, Tom.
Okay, any other questions? This is an ordinance. It is a first reading, so we will not vote on it today. We'll take it up at our first meeting in April. So thank you, Tom. And Chair will entertain a motion to add 2 items to the agenda today.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And items are added. Mr. Quist.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. Approximately 2 weeks ago at our last meeting, I asked your approval for authorization to procure services from the National Research Center for our biennial, every 2-year national citizen survey that we conduct of our citizens. The base cost of that service is $10,300, and that was the cost that you all approved 2 weeks ago. Since then, we have decided to add an open-ended question that we can ask of our citizens, and there's an additional cost associated with that. Further, we would like to add some additional add-ons, one of which is a demographic subgroup comparison. So that allows us to dig a little bit deeper into the data to explore any variances among different demographic groups of our community. For instance, whether you rent a home in our community or if you own a home, race is separated out, age and gender as well. So I think that would be a valuable addition. It's relatively cheap compared to the overall cost. And then finally, and I apologize, I didn't realize that this was an extra cost, but I would like to add in the ability to not only compare our results to the nation as a whole, but, and we've done this in the past, separate out the South so that we can see how we stack up against other cities in the South as well as the nation as a whole. Again, we've been doing that in the past. I didn't realize it was an additional cost, so I do apologize for that oversight. The bottom line is these additions would amount to $3,500 extra, bringing the total cost of the survey to $13,800. So I'm seeking your approval for that price increase at this time. And we already do have SAVE and E-Verify documents in hand. This is a budgeted item.
And I'm going to ask for a motion, but then after that, we're going to have a discussion. So you hold your spot there, young man.
Sure, sure. And I also want to just give a message to the community about the survey, if I may.
Okay. Is there any discussion relative to the increased expenditure for this survey? And if not, a motion would be in order.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Go ahead and make your
Thank you
comment to
very
the
much.
community, please, Tom.
I just want to stress to anyone out there listening or watching or reading about this later, we do this survey every 2 years, and personally I get real excited about it. I think it gives us a great deal of very high quality information. It's a reliable tool that provides valid data, and it's a great way for the leaders of our community and for the folks that live in our community to get a better feel for the feelings of those in our community with regards to how they perceive our community, the quality of service, the quality of life here. Typically, these types of surveys generate response rates of between 25 and 40%. We send out 1,200 surveys total, so typically we get about 300 back. Our response rate has been around 30%. I would love to see that number go up. I would love for folks, if they get the survey, to make their voices heard. If you have any questions, you're certainly free to call me. 770-607-2111 is my direct line. It's a great opportunity for you to give us your input. I know we use that information to kind of analyze our strengths and weaknesses, and I really encourage folks to do that if you receive it. Should be out within about a month.
And I guess the one thing I would add to that is you can't call and request to take part of the survey. This is a blind blanketing.
Yeah,
so,
yep.
to keep the
They
data
randomly pick
statistically
the
significant.
folks. So yeah, unfortunately, it's just kind of the luck of the draw. I think I've gotten it once since I've been here for 5 years, and it's just the luck of the draw, but that's what enables the survey to be reliable and valid, is because it's a random sample. So.
Okay.
And how many are sent out?
Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
1,200 are sent out.
1,200.
Yes, 1,200, and we usually get about 300 to 350 back, I believe. So, again, that's kind of within that normal range, but maybe a little on the low side. I'd love to see it scoot up a little bit closer to 40%. It really is important, and it's a great way to get an unbiased view of our community. So, and the results tend to come back pretty positive too. So, we hope to see that. We hope to see some improvement in some areas that maybe we haven't been as high in the past. I think, for instance, recycling. I'm real excited to see how our ratings have changed since we've introduced the recycling program. So.
Question. Any idea on how you can get that number improved? That's about, what is that, about 25% response?
Yeah, I think typically we're around 30% response rate. I think the best thing we can do is just make folks aware that to expect it from us. It does come in an envelope with our letterhead and our seal on it, so it appears, it's coming from the city. Again, this other service provides it for us, but they use our materials. It is accompanied by a letter from the mayor. What we're doing right now, just discussing the importance of that information. Again, we want people to feel that their voice is heard, they're represented, and if you don't complete the survey, your voice is not going to be heard. So,
and actually, that response rate is actually pretty good.
Yeah, it's not bad,
so,
but the higher the better.
Yeah, but I've heard people, especially in my ward, that tell me that Well, I got it, but I didn't see any sense in it, so I tossed it. I recommended that they fill it out. I said,
Yeah.
well, what good is it?
It doesn't really affect the statistical significance, though.
No, it's still valid.
Yeah.
It's still valid, but I think, I think at the very least it gives people, the sense that they are, being heard to fill it out.
Well,
So.
they are, because council actually bases some policy decisions.
Yep,
upon
absolutely. We're going to include.
Which kind of segues me into potential discussion. You said that there could be 3 fixed response questions.
Correct.
And you have given us a sheet earlier that has 4 potential ones on there. This needs to get finalized by Friday, which is tomorrow. So I don't know if there's any discussion that needs to be had now relative to, I don't know that Tom wants to be the one making the final decision on what goes on there and what doesn't.
Yeah.
And I think he needs a little bit of direction from us in regards to what you'd like to see on there and what you don't. Certainly if there's tweaking to a question, you can get that to him. But I'd like to try to find some kind of general consensus to give Tom the direction he needs to get this in on time.
And I'll just quickly add that the national research folks have a lot of experience with this, so they can help us with getting the wording right. I think the big thing is getting the content, the ideas that we would like to poll folks on. So.
I guess my question would be on number 3. I'm not, if we're talking about enlarging the downtown district, I guess I'm unclear of why there's an issue with that one. I guess it just seems to be pretty straightforward, but maybe I'm missing some concern there that we haven't really touched on before, because it seems like that seems pretty straightforward.
I thought we were going toward a kind of a redevelopment. Was that a redevelopment question?
Yeah, well, that was, and these are all based off of ideas that were sent to me.
Oh, right.
And that one in particular hadn't really been fleshed out, so the question isn't all that well-formed, to be honest with you. I basically just kind of
Grab the topic.
And again, all the wording is up for negotiation and everything at this point. And even tomorrow, I just need to get them the ideas. Like I said, they will help us form them. But, that's a good question, because I'm not exactly sure what that question is specifically getting at.
First of all, I think I know who submitted the question. But I also think that this is something that's been talked about for a while as far as expanding the Downtown Development Authority's boundaries, which would make facade grants and things like that available, and also expand the bid district. There was also some legislation this year that didn't cross over, but hopefully will be continue to be worked on by GMA as far as Renaissance, it's called the Renaissance Bill, where you can extend that. I would personally say that this is probably something more that would be on us to make a determination, and not necessarily something
What was the input from the community as a whole, I guess is what's,
right, and I think, given that it's a survey of this type, I think there's a lot there for them to, I don't know that they're gonna have enough information or context to it to be able to really be able to answer that or get good data out of it, so.
That was kind of my thought.
Based on the questions and looks, is there kind of consensus that number 3 would kind of be moved to more of an action item by council and the DDA than it would be a survey question?
Okay.
I don't want to speak for the group, is that
Sure.
good?
Agree.
Okay.
Mayor, along that, on question number 1, if the current proposed legislation stays in its basic form with the General Assembly to allow fireworks throughout the state of Georgia, really the decision that local governments will be making is where within their boundaries will they allow the sale of fireworks and or the use of fireworks. You can either designate specific areas where you prohibit it, or it will be allowed citywide. I don't know if that question really addresses that issue, what you will actually be making a decision on at a later date, because what you'll be making a decision on at a later date is not whether it's allowed or not allowed in the city. It will be allowed in the city, but you can prohibit it in certain designated areas if you want to. So I don't know if y'all may want to consider revising that question or not.
Mike, you could do it by commercial, it's prohibited in commercial districts, or,
Yeah.
I mean, however you chose to do it.
Right.
Okay. All right.
Or you could say it's prohibited in the downtown business district.
Okay.
Since we were talking about that just a minute ago.
But in general, based on what Tom was saying earlier, if we have the general principle in place, they can maybe word that a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, that probably would change that one fairly dramatically. I mean, I guess what you could try to get at is the overall support or opposition of
Fireworks.
how widespread they are, throughout the community. I mean, if it's not an option, it's not an option. But if we want to gather some input on the general attitude towards fireworks in the city, it may still provide some information that would help. Should we restrict this? Should we not restrict this?
Are there areas where it's inappropriate?
Yeah, I mean, that's my thought on it. And certainly we could look at tweaking it more. I guess the more complicated it gets, the harder it is to ask a question in these type, because they try to kind of really make it as simple as possible.
Well, again, isn't that ultimately gonna be council's decision to determine that?
Well, it's kind of like when we did the Sunday alcohol sales, though. I mean, hearing from the community whether that was something that was generally supported or not supported helped us decide whether we actually were going to put out the referendum. And I mean, the question we asked was like a preliminary. So it's like, are there places where you think it's inappropriate? And 90% come back and say, we don't want them at all. Then that gives us a real good guideline on whether we want to prohibit them in every place except heavy industrial or public parks or
yeah.
something like that. It gives us like a really better handle, so we're doing what the community wants and not just what we think they want.
But you're right, it is our decision. Yeah.
That's what it's about.
Well, I think we use these questions, what Carrie's sort of saying and alluding to is we use the results of these questions to help us make a decision in the future. And the way I look at these three, I know we're trying to get an opinion, is the first three to me are things that'll come down to what council will go one way or the other. Question 4 is, we have no bearing on that. To me, question 4 is more of a statewide question in regards to the state legislature. I mean, if they decide to do it, we don't have a say which way or the other. So really,
well, as Keith said, there may be some.
Actually, I think it is being rewritten that you would have a local option. There'd be some local discretion. But after I made that little talk about question number 3, I do think question number 4 kind of falls into that same category. So whatever y'all want to do is fine with me. I do think 1 and 2 need to be on there, and whichever one y'all want between 3 and 4 is fine with me as well.
Well, also don't forget relative to the fireworks one, if they have not passed legislation, that is something that you can use to talk to legislators to say, here's what our community thinks about.
That's right, for next year.
He was
That's
talking
right.
about
That-
firearms.
this-
Oh, firearms.
I'm
That
talking
was
about the
fireworks.
But firearms
Yeah.
too, Jason, if that doesn't pass this year for what, or if that is modified, we would know how our
Yeah,
community
I'm
felt.
glad that the chief is the only one packing in this room right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
If that passed,
Still legally packing in this
Just
room.
imagine.
Mayor,
well, if you just need, I don't know what we're doing here. I mean, if we're going to do this maybe through emails, whatever, but I would say 1, 2, and 3 are the most important to me as
Okay.
far as decisions locally that we can. And is there always one open-ended question?
No, that's
So that,
that's a special circumstance. They always include 3 custom closed fixed response
but,
questions.
so the open-ended will be there regardless? Or
Well,
does it need to be one of these
I've been instructed that we would like to see an open-ended question regarding
has that in it.
parks. Yeah, so.
now Jace, here's what I was thinking. On number 3 is that our DDA director would recommend an extension where we would have input, we would work together on that, and then she'd bring it to us, and then we decide on, it might not be a perfect circle, it might be just taking in a half a block or whatever to benefit. So I was thinking number 3 could be left out based on that really being an internal decision and not having any statewide consequences or based on legislation.
Well, why don't we do this? It seems like we're all in agreement on 1 and 2. Does that seem to be the general consensus? Who wants number 3 on there, unofficially?
I don't know that I have a preference at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really care, I was just,
Yeah.
am I looking at that correctly?
I think for
Tim?
me, for number 3, I can't imagine somebody saying no. I guess I would be shocked. I can't understand why there would even be a yes or no. And maybe that's why I don't understand the question, because it would just mean it's like if you can revitalize downtown, who would say no?
Lots.
You're kidding. I'm just shocked. Then maybe we need to have that one in there, because that's a surprise.
Something that may help you in that is the downtown master plan, which we met just the other day with Richard and Randy and talked through the DDA board. That's going out to the citizens as well. We're trying to get input. It's going to be public comments on that as well. So that may help with the downtown district. We can bring that up if you're considering that, if that's an option, that as part of the downtown master plan, which we brought back to council at a later date to help decide on that.
The open-ended question for me at the bottom is the one that still concerns me. I mean, have we determined whether or not, I know we've got some pending information that's coming, but our expectations are for the residents to give us all the information on what the park would entail. And then they still are gonna have partial information on where the park could actually be.
Well, we wondered if that would not help you in terms of the universe of things that could be in it, since sometimes that is a wall that we run up against relative to where is it going to be, what's it going to do, that it might answer that piece. And relative to the money, I think we had about half at one point, but that's
The last couple months,
sales taxes waned. We had 700, maybe it's what, 5 now?
Probably about 5.
Yeah. So I mean,
Keep going down as they are.
that's a pertinent question, but we thought maybe that would help you all relative to the universe of things that could be in it, and there may be some ideas out there that we haven't thought about.
It might be helpful 5 or 6 years down the road, or it might just be, you know, if something doesn't happen on the north side, it might be pertinent to see what people's interests are there.
Well, and you may get something completely opposite that says, why do you even want to do it? I don't know.
So,
Which would be good to hear.
after my little talk about number 3 being left off, I'm going to say I would choose 1, 2, and 3. because Jace made a very good point about number 4, and in light of what Dan said about, you know, particular plans or that data could be valuable in helping with that development. So
Number 3, you have a lot of people that own property that are on the outskirts of the downtown district, some of which are very, very interested in being included so that they have a little more incentive to be restored. And then you have business owners that are on the outskirts that they'll want to be included for various reasons of their own. So I'm not so sure that the question is going to go to business owners, but my idea was the fact we could just see how the public felt about making that a larger area so that we as council can make some decisions on how to restore it.
I think that's fair. I had no idea.
I'm okay with that too.
Yeah.
I'm okay.
but so just in general consensus, 1, 2, and 3.
Number 4 is the one that's sort of in the back of my mind that scares me about the firearms.
You afraid people gonna bring a gun in here?
I know. They go on fishing and everything. You got guys with these little tackle boxes, and they come up with those disagreements. You got some fools out there. Yeah, fishing, hunting. Not if you're hunting, you're going to have your weapons, but like fishing, guys get in a dispute. I've seen it happen. I haven't seen anybody get killed, but I've seen people threaten, and they stood there like cowboys, threaten each other. And I don't go with them anymore, but I think that number 4 requires a lot of thinking. If it's anything that we could do, I'd like to get rid of 3 and put down 1, 2, and 4.
You know,
Lindsay?
even if number 4 came back that people supported having firearms in this building, I still would say I don't think that's a good idea.
Y'all may want to reconsider whether or not that's a statement about you or the guns.
Maybe I'm looking at it wrong, but
Well, I would only say this about that legislation. Nowhere in that piece of legislation, and it appears that the Georgia State Legislature is on a course to say that they want guns everywhere, but nowhere in that legislation does it say that you're allowed to carry a gun down at the state capitol. So if guns are good everywhere, why they wouldn't want them in their own house of governance?
Actually, with the way it's currently written, it says if there is no, I think, metal detection or something like that, that if you have those, you can't have them. So at state capitol, you would have those, and it wouldn't.
And same with
Green
like
by
the courthouse.
We need to budget for some metal detectors.
Yeah. All right, so it seems like we might not
Right.
have unanimity, but it looks like we've got consensus over 1, 2, and 3.
And then is number, we will have an open-ended question?
Yes, I mean, from, I
I
believe
mean, we're
so.
not gonna, it's not gonna cost us extra money.
No, it is. It is gonna cost us extra.
Well, how much more is it to have?
Well,
three
that's
questions?
included in what you just
And what
approved
he
a
just
moment
talked
ago.
You already approved it.
Yes.
I think you made the motion for that, too.
Well, I probably did. I'm trying to get out of here.
There will
Trying to
be
get out
no
of here
additional
before lunch.
cost beyond the 1,000, or the 13,800 that
Okay.
we've just approved. It's
Okay.
included in that.
We're good.
All right, you have the direction you need, Mr.
I do.
Quist.
Thank you very much. And what I'll do is I'll submit these to the company. They'll help us kind of tweak them and get the wording correct, and then I'll send it to you guys just to make sure that we're all okay with it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Next item, letter of support for Bartow Health Access.
Yes, this is a letter from Bartow Health Access requesting support of their application for FQHS status. It's a federal status that they're seeking. We had legal review this, and council does need to authorize your signature. So you've all got a copy of the letter, and it looks good to approve. I recommend that you authorize the mayor's signature.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Mayor, that is the Louis Tonsmeyer, Bartow Health Access, and it's a good time to recognize our
He's the
colleague.
building.
And I'll, I'm serious.
There he is, right there.
Oh, really? It's not junior, it's senior. But it is a good time to recognize because Louis has consistently stayed with that organization, got it started from the ground. I know you've had a lot of help, Louis, but still, it means a lot to this community. Thank you.
Thank you for pointing that out, Diane. Now our finance report.
Honorable Mayor and Council, today we'll be looking at the financial report for January 2013 and comparing it to January 2012. In the general fund, revenues have decreased over last January by $1.17 million. This is due to the school bond paying off in fiscal year 2012. Expenses have decreased by $668,000, also attributed mostly to the bond paying off for the school. In the local option sales tax, we've got a decrease from last year of $309,000. Police fines and forfeitures, we have an increase of $105,000. And building permits and inspections have a decrease of about $11,000. Excuse me. In the water and sewer fund, revenues have increased over last January by $227,000. Expenses increased by $778,000. This increase is due mainly to increased capital expenditures. The gas fund revenues have decreased from last January by $927,000. Expenses have also decreased by $1.53 million. In the electric fund, revenues have decreased from last year by $33,000, while expenses have increased by $396,000. This is due to increased personnel expenses, increased operating expenses, and increased cost of purchasing electricity. In the stormwater, revenues have increased by $28,000. Expenses have increased by $270,000. If you remember back a couple months, the increase for this is due to the two houses that we purchased on Lee Street and Etowah Drive through the grant. Solid Waste Fund, revenues have increased from last year by $100,000 and expenses have increased by $186,000. This increase is due mainly to increased capital expenses. And finally, in the Fiber Optics Fund, revenues have increased from last January by $21,000, while expenses have increased by $155,000. This increase is made mostly due to increased capital expenses. And that is my report for the month of January.
Thank you, Tom. Any questions about the financial report? Any other business that needs to come before council? I'm guessing that logistically, if you remember way back when we matched up everybody, if you'll find that person, I know that council members, I think, are going to stay in this room, along with the mayor and city manager and city attorney. If you'll all stay in this room, and everybody else find your department, find your person. If there's no other business that needs to come before council, chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
We're adjourned. They can get a harumph out of that guy.